Good morning and welcome to What the Paranormal with Miss Hyde. So, today we are going to talk about um, personal experience I had at Old Idaho State Penitentiary. Um, I was there about maybe 10 to 12 years ago. I went to go visit some friends, and I love to go look at, old locations, haunted locations. Now, I really didn't do any research whatsoever on the old penitentiary. Um, I just Googled it. It looked interesting, and I just went. Didn't do any research, didn't do anything. But some interesting things happened to me while I was there. But I want to give you guys a little rundown on the penitentiary before I jump into my story. Um, from the beginning, it was a single cell penitentiary, um, surrounded by a 17-foot high sandstone wall. The stone was quarried from the nearby ridges by the convicts themselves, and they also assisted in the construction of other buildings later on. Let's see. Over its 101 years of operation, the penitentiary received more than 13,000 inmates with a maximum population of a little over 600. Now, 215 of those were women, and there were two famous inmates, Harry Harry Orchard and Lida Southard. Orchard assassinated former Governor Frank Stundenberg. I butchered that. I'm sorry. In 1905, and Southard was known as Idaho's Lady Bluebeard for killing several of her husbands to collect their life insurance. What a wonderful lady. Now, the prison had a couple riots in 1952, 1971, and 1973. Serious riots occurred over their living conditions in the prison. 416 inmates were moved to the new Idaho State Correction Institution south of Boise, and the old Idaho Penitentiary closed in 1973. Um, so let's get into the experience I had. Now, when you visit old the penitentiary, it's a gravel road, or I don't know if it's still a gravel road, but it's a gravel road. So this particular day, I went with my friend, and driving up, I just got the funny feeling that I was being looked at or being watched from my right side. I couldn't pinpoint it. I couldn't, you know, think, well, why am I being watched at? Who's looking at me? And it should have dawned on me, but it didn't. No, like I said, I didn't do any research on it. I didn't do anything. I thought it was just a wall that surrounded the penitentiary. Well, it turns out that they're catwalks with towers, guard towers, and I didn't know that. Again, I didn't do my research. So we had parked the car, and I was getting my, digital recorder ready. I was getting my um, camera ready. I was making sure I had all my stuff in check. And we started to walk, and we walked probably a couple feet, and we started hearing as if people were walking behind us. And we turned around, and nobody was there. And I looked at my friend and he looked at me and I go, "Did you hear that?" He goes, "Yeah." Okay, okay, I'm not crazy. And then the closer we got to the main entrance, I turned to my friend. I go, "I have a funny feeling that I'm being watched. Like I hear footsteps and it sounds like there's a dog walking." And that's when he told me, he's all like, um, "The guard catwalks are above us and with the towers." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Dude," it was like I'm getting that weird feeling like I'm being stalked or whatever. So we went in, and there was a guided tour, and then there was a self tour. Well, I don't do very well with guided tours. I mean, they tell you all the stories and everything, but I like to do the self tour because I like to, I don't know, pick up on things that are unique. So um, we paid our donation for the self tour, and we walked in. Now the inside pretty big. A lot of the buildings had been destroyed in fires and stuff like that, so um, it shows you the damages. I think it was the mess hall that was one of them that was damaged. So I turned around and I saw this building away from the rest of the buildings, and it turns out to be the women's prison or the women's cell block. I went in there and you know, it didn't feel as cold as the rest of the prison, but it didn't feel homey, if that makes any sense. Um, but in the process of going through the cell blocks and taking pictures and stuff, I had reached in to snap a picture, a better picture, so I put my hand into the cell, and I felt this cold breeze um, come across, and I quickly pulled my hand out, and my friends all like, "You felt that?" And I go, "Yeah," and it's not like the normal breezes that I usually feel. This one was more like a hand, like somebody had like just barely touched me. So I went around, read about the different women that were there and, their crimes and all that stuff. We walked out, and to the side of the building, there was a rose garden. Now, this is where I had my first encounter, um, which I didn't make any sense of it, but um, I should have. So I wanted to go close because it says that there was an outdoor gallows, and I didn't know where the outdoor gallows was. They didn't have anything set up. This is where the outdoor gallows was. Turns out the outdoor gallows was where the rose garden was. So as I was walking closer to the rose garden, I started getting this ridiculous cough that I couldn't contain myself. I kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and it felt like my throat was getting tight. And my friend was like, "Are you kid? You want some water?" And he gave me some water, and it didn't help. Like I was struggling to swallow. So I walked away from that area, and I'm like, "You know what? I'm just gonna walk and see if it goes away." So we were walking away from the rose garden, and we were walking by the um, solitary confinement, and we were walking by the mess house. When all of a sudden it stopped, I can breathe. My throat didn't feel tight. Um, I was like, that was totally weird. And again, I didn't think anything of it. So, we did our rounds. We walked around. We walked by the showers. Now, the showers to me gave me this weird, creepy feeling. I couldn't put my finger on it, um, but it just felt very claustrophobic. Um, we walked into the main cell blocks. Um, a lot of the cells were welded shut, and a couple of them were were open. And I walked in, and I got scared. I was like terrified to walk in, and I usually don't get scared in anything because I grew up in a house that is haunted and it had a lot of ghosts in it. But walking into this particular main cell block, I heard whistling from the upper um, floor. I think it was the third floor, third or fourth floor. I heard talking amongst cellmates, amongst the prisoners. I heard rattling on um, the doors. When I'm hearing all this stuff, I look over at my friend, and he's all like, "This is so cool." And I go, "Really? You don't hear anything?" And mind you, at this time, I had my digital recorder going on, and I also had the recorder on my phone going. And he's all like, "No, this is cool because you were able to go up and go into some of the cell blocks. So you wanted to go up and go into some of the cell blocks." I was like, yeah, no. And he's all like, "Why? You feel something?" And I go, I'm very uncomfortable right now. It feels like I'm getting stared at 100%, and I don't like that feeling." And he's all, "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine." So, like, I'm like calling my guardians, my ancestors. I'm like bringing them down, just to protect me. And I walk in, and I'm taking pictures, and I can hear right next to me, "Hey, baby." But it was like in a deep voice. And I turned around and told my friend, "I'm out. I'm not going to stand here, and I'm not going to, no, So he was taking pictures, and I was on the main floor, and I'm like with the camera up, looking, taking pictures, and I was going through some of the photos, and lo and behold, there's something in one of the cell blocks. And I'm looking at it, and then I'm looking at where I was standing, and lo and behold, that's where I was standing. And I was like, "Oh, hell no. No, no, not today, Satan." And, we walked out, and because my friend is 6'6", so he had to like kind of bend down to get through the doors. So, uh, we walked out of there, and I played back the recorder, and before I played it, I told him I heard loudly whistling, chit chat, and I heard, "Hey, baby." And he's all like, "I didn't hear any of that." And I go, "I know you didn't, because you would have looked at me, and I would have looked at you, and we would have been later." And we played it back, and what I heard was on the digital recorder. And he's all like, "No shit, you do have connection with the dead." And I go, I don't want to call it that, but okay. So, um, they had moved the outdoor gallows to inside, to death row, I guess, maximum security, which is a newer building in a newer wing of the penitentiary. And I wasn't really into it or whatever, so I was like, all right, whatever. So we walked in there, and same thing. I heard chit chat amongst prisoners. Not as much as I did in the main cell block, but I heard a lot of chit chat in um, that one. And when we went up to where the gallows, where they would hang the prisoners, I got that sensation that I got at the Rose Garden. And I told my friend, I go, "This is weird. It feels like somebody, where they try to hang somebody, but they didn't die right away. They struggled. They were gasping for air. And mind you, I just threw that out because that's the first thing that popped into my head. And my friend goes, "Oh, it's weird." So we took pictures and stuff like that. And we continued our tour. And, they had the old fashioned, gates and all that stuff. And we went to the office, and I asked one of the guides, and I go, "Can I ask a question?" Like me being me. The outdoor gallows, where was that? And she's all like, "Oh, by the rose garden." I'm like, "Okay." She's all, "Why?" And I go, "Well, because I was walking toward the rose garden and I got this really bad cough and tightening of the throat that I thought, like, oh my God, did I swallow my spit wrong? And what happened here?" And my friend tried to give me water and it just struggled to swallow the water. She's all like, "You're about the third person who tells us that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, come to find out that a news reporter also experienced the same thing when they went to go do a story there. And um, Ghost Adventures also did an episode there. And um, turns out that they had some experiences in the same area where I picked up a lot of experiences. So, from being followed by a guard and his dog to ghost footsteps on the gravel to hearing prisoners talk amongst themselves, rattling of the cell doors, the whistling, the gallows, um, all that stuff I encountered in my 3-hour visit to Idaho, the old Idaho State Penitentiary. Now, if you want to go check it out, you can check it out. I'm not sure if they are open right now for COVID, but it's a very unique place to visit. Um, Idaho has a lot of places to visit that are very interesting and unique, and that was one of them that I remember clearly because it just it was it was a lot. There was a lot of energy there, and I picked up without intentionally, but I picked up on a lot of things. So, with that being said, this is a very short episode. I thought I'd drop by more personal experiences with the paranormal. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram at What the Paranormal, Twitter at What the Paranormal, Facebook. Um, our page is What the Paranormal. Don't forget to leave us a message. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You have a wonderful day. Don't forget to stay safe with this COVID. Stay 6 feet. Wear your mask. Try to stay safe. And we'll talk to you again. Don't forget to keep it ghosting. See you. So, with this coronavirus epidemic that we have going on, you have many celebrities, you have actors coming in and joining the podcast community, and you want to jump into it. Well, if you haven't heard, there's a program that you can use called Anchor, now, which is the easiest way to create a podcast. It's free. Um, there's a whole bunch of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast from your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your computer. Um, it'll even distribute them for you. So It'll be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. You can make money with your podcast with no minimum listenership. Like I said, we have a lot of celebrities, we have a lot of actors, actresses joining the podcast community. So they'll be making money because of their followers. Well, you can do it too. You could have 2 followers and still be making money. So it's an easy way to join the podcast community because this program lets you um, make money with no minimum listenership. And it has everything you need from a podcast program all rolled into one. So if you want to join the community, don't forget to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started. Join us independent podcasters along with the celebrities and the actors and the actresses who are on the podcast community. So don't forget, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.